Hey guys, Mark Ferrasci, Pro Tech Dog Training. Sorry if the lighting's a little off. I wanted to kind of fill in on my comments about the powers of 2s and 3s. So I wanted to do a little bit of a blackboard on it, right? So all I'm really doing is I call it the powers of 2s and 3s because I encompass it with everything. I go and do something once, twice, up to 3 times. I go away from it and I go to something else and then I come back to things, right? I mix things up, okay? So I look at it like this in this pyramid, right? And I want you to think about something. How many things in nature are very amazing in the respect that they have the same shapes? And one of those shapes that are very prevalent in Mother Nature in all kinds of areas is the conical shape. The conical shell. If you cut it in half, you see that little rib, right? You see that same thing in plants. You see that same pattern in all kinds of things. That is the mysteries of the universe. It's amazing. Well, I think the Egyptians were onto something too when they did things in the pyramid. And that's the power of Mother Nature as well that they've harnessed. Back then, it was probably something that they understood a lot better than we do now. It's been a lost thing, right? So this is me drawing a little bit of a triangle, but it's actually a pyramid to me. It's 1, 2, and 3. Now, how you go about doing this, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're using the concept of powers of 2s and 3s, a pattern of 3, right? The first thing I'll usually be working on is something that's primary that the dog already knows and that is getting a lot of results from, in other words, succeeding in, right? You come into it, it's something you've already got ingrained in the dog's mind, you go to that pattern, the dog is succeeding in it, right? Then you go to something that maybe the dog doesn't know as well, and you go to number 2, okay? And you mix that in. And you do that a couple times and you start showing him. We always teach first, we show, and then you might go to something that's totally teaching and he's learning something totally new. That whole thing between the powers of 2s and 3s and how you mix up is key, right? Ending things on a high point. Making sure that you leave the dog's head in the right place when you get done. So I want you to kind of pay attention as I keep doing this with the puppies and with Diogenes especially, because Diogenes got the most drive and it's going to be the one excelling the most. Luther is doing pretty well, but he's a thinker. He's a different dog. You're not using the drives as much. But I want you to pay attention to how I mix things up and how I work things into patterns that create the behaviors that I'm building, right? Now I just did a couple videos the other day and I asked my guy to kind of do one with the puppies and then one with Joker and Buddy, so that you see a contrast between the dogs that are already finished or not finished. You never stop working your dog, but the dogs that are a lot farther along in their behavior abilities, and then the puppies that are just starting to learn this, right? The powers of 2s and 3s and learning to learn and being educated in how to learn in those patterns. If you see me using food for Buddy as an example, he'll take my hand off. Joker's the same way. When I bring out food, now people start saying, well, you always got to be using food, you always got to be using, we never get away from it. We just basically make it more intermittent and more of a variable, that the dog variable reward increases behavior with time, right? So we start to make it more variable and you're going to get a lot more intensity because the dog is going into that natural instinctive drive with the variable reward. And that's what it does. It builds more intensity when you use the variables in the right way. And I usually start doing that at a very young age. I start doing it with my withholding food. There's plenty of other places I do it. I'll try to pick up on it and start showing you that variable and as I start to teach it, right? And we'll get into that as I start to use it and start to do it and where I apply it and where I start to be able to teach the dog what is a variable reward, right? We start doing things that start making the dog understand variable, and now you start to be able to mix it in to your powers of 2s and 3s, right? So that's kind of my explanation of the powers in 2s and 3s, and how you mix things up is very important, and where you leave the dog's head in the right place so that when you come back the next time you have that to build on. We'll get into more as we go along. So Mark Ferrasci, Pro Tech Dog Training, signing off with trying to explain the powers of 2s and 3s. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.